Have you heard about the big changes Pope Francis is making? An archbishop named Vincenzo Paglia just explained everything in an interview, and his message is clear. The Pope wants to update Catholic teaching for modern times. This is especially true for topics like homosexuality and divorced Catholics who remarry. Paglia says Pope Francis wanted to adapt doctrine to the new times. That means moving away from old, fixed rules and moving toward a more open and compassionate approach. So what did the Pope actually do? He changed two major Vatican institutions. One is the John Paul II Institute. The other is the Pontifical Academy for Life. Paglia says Francis didn't just tweak them. He wanted to recreate them completely. Why? Because the old way of thinking was too static. It relied on something called natural law, but a very rigid version of it. Paglia says that approach was moralistic. It used abstract rules, like an algorithm, to judge people's lives. It didn't pay enough attention to real human experience. Pope Francis saw a problem. Even inside these Vatican offices, some people resisted his teaching. They thought they were more faithful than the Pope himself. Paglia says they were even stricter than Pope Pius XII on some issues. So Francis decided it was time for a change. One of the first steps came after the synods on the family. Then, in 2016, Pope Francis wrote Amoris Laetitia, a document about love in the family. After that, he called Paglia and said, "I want you to reorganize both institutes." Paglia got to work. He helped write a new text about Humanae Fide, the famous document from Pope Paul VI. The new text respected the old one, but it also showed where updates were needed. Pope Francis really liked it. Next, the Pontifical Academy for Life got a major makeover. In the past, it focused mostly on abortion and euthanasia. Now, the Pope wants a much bigger vision. He calls it even cosmic. Life becomes a huge category that includes society, the environment, and human relationships. That's why the Academy invited new kinds of experts, not just Catholic theologians anymore. Now you have roboticists, engineers, economists, and AI specialists. Even non-Catholics and non-believers are welcome. For example, the Academy worked with Microsoft and IBM on AI ethics. Of course, this caused controversy. One example, the Pope appointed an economist named Mariana Mazzucato. She supports abortion rights. Many critics were angry, but Pope Francis stood by his choice. He said publicly, "I chose her." Paglia also points to a new book called The Joy of Life, published in 2024. He says it's the clearest expression of this new vision. The book offers a fresh way to think about ethics and human life. It gently updates older teachings without throwing them away. What about the John Paul II Institute? That changed too. Originally, it focused very heavily on marriage and sexual morality. Paglia says it ignored wider social issues. So the Pope created a whole new institute in its place. Now it's called the Pontifical John Paul II Theological Institute for Marriage and Family Sciences. It teaches a broader theology of the family, not just rules about sex. Not everyone was happy. Some old leaders fought back hard. Paglia admits it was a very harsh confrontation, but Pope Francis pushed forward anyway. One more thing, the idea of fraternity. Paglia says he suggested to the Pope that fraternity should be a central theme. The Pope loved the idea. That's how the encyclical Fratelli Tutti 2020 was born. And if you remember Laudato Si 2015, about the environment, that letter asked, "Who lives in our common home?" The answer? The poor. And all of us are brothers and sisters. That's the thread connecting both documents. So what's the bottom line? Pope Francis is not throwing away tradition, but he believes doctrine can grow and change. He wants a church that is kinder, broader, and more in touch with real life. And, according to Archbishop Paglia, this is only the beginning.